The time is now. They gon' love me for my ambition. Easy to dream a dream, but what's harder to live?
Oh, is it now?
There we go. We're live
We live, baby.
in Foster's studio.
Right, Foster Studio. You hear the acoustics in the background?
Not really. It only kicks in every now and then.
Okay, but I was making sure because I'm right next to a speaker and I'm just like, oh shoot.
No,
But
you're good.
all right, cool. Let's kick it off, man. What's up, y'all? Ambitious Mind back. This is gonna be the third week in a row, so we're really back at it this time. But hey, y'all. I hope we were able to speak into somebody's life last week, or really were able to help you all last week with unpacking fear. I think that was a really good conversation for both of us, BD.
Mhm.
I know it kind of helped me throughout the rest of this week and as well. And now it's just an everyday thing. I'm just constantly asking myself, okay, what's the fear? How can I unpack it? And try to move on. It's not always easy, but at least I have a tool that now I can use and really try to push forward on some things. But
Right.
let's start off. How was your week, man?
It's been good so far. It's been a busy last few weeks, man. So it's been good. But I agree with you. I think after we talked about it, every time something came up, I was like, okay, what's my perspective like right now? How am I looking at all this? Do I need to take a step back? Like, what's going on? Um, and I also think like it made me be more self-aware of when those feelings do come up and like what am I doing when they come up, and
Yep.
like when you're looking for it, you see it more often. You know what I'm saying? So no, it was good though, man. Good week. Obviously it's Tuesday now as we're shooting, so still got this whole week left to go. So I think it's gonna be good though. I think it's gonna be a good month. So what about you, man?
Good, man. Pretty good, man. This weekend was pretty. It wasn't busy. I spent a lot of time with Emery, which was is always great. And then you get a deeper appreciation for your wife that's a stay-at-home mom, and you just like thank the Lord for you, because I don't know if this could be me. uh, and I love Emery, but like Emery's hopping all on my neck and stuff, whatever. And she's just like, see, that's what I deal with every day, 24/7. And man, it's definitely moms definitely have a grace, man, and a patience that not all dads have. And
Preach.
so definitely just trying to learn that. Definitely trying to learn that daily. But
Mhm.
yeah, man. Then for work wise, been interesting. Like I said, I've been having a lot of good conversations about unpacking fear.
Yeah,
Uh, and having my managers realize like if you really unpack your fear, like what are you really afraid of? And a lot of it is having to work too much, which I get 100%. So man, just trying to go through that journey with them and trying to help them best I can,
for
because
sure.
it's easy to want to jump in.
Oh yeah.
It's easy to want, but it's hard to when you're running 6 stores.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, man.
man. I hear you. I hear you. No, it seems like lately the thing that I've been struggling with too is like I have so many ideas and so many things that are important to me that I want to be working on and doing. And you
Yeah,
get so caught up in the day to day and so caught up in just like the busyness of it all that to make the time or to and that's what it is to make the time to do it and trying to figure out what things in my day can I sacrifice. Started going back to the gym again, so like okay, there's an hour that I just got back to do something that I've been wanting to do, so I can't get into that time, you know what I mean? It's just like trying to figure all these things out. And I think it always boils down to how are you handling your day. uh but then it's also like I don't know, man. I need that balance too. It's like sometimes when I get home, it's like I want to be home,
yeah,
and I respect and like understand the whole grind culture, but then it's like, man, some of these things it's gonna take months to get set up, ready to go. Um, like one thing that I really want to do. Oh, can you hear me okay?
yep.
Okay, cool. My internet's being weird. is like for the office, for example, some kind of like filing structure, like how we used Google Drive, Google Docs and stuff before. Like, although that was a never-ending project in itself of getting
Yeah.
that organized, but at least having the platform there and available, and how easy it is to share things, that way. Um, but just thinking how many hands were in that to get it set up, to get it to where it was.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can we do something like that, implementing it in something new? You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's a lot. And that's just one thing of many that's, on my mind. I'm trying to think like, okay, this can be so much better. This can be so much faster. This could, you know what I'm saying? So we'll see.
Let me ask you a question, because as you were talking, and I know that's one thing that me and you constantly talk about even off the podcast is boundaries and creating boundaries around certain areas of our life. Do you think in life we have too many options?
Probably, probably. I think it's hard because I've seen it's hard. I've seen some of these like entrepreneurs, right? And you go to their profiles or whatever, and they've got like 10 different businesses underneath their name of things that they're pursuing or building or working on. And some of them have different levels of success than others. But when you look at their life, and although you're only seeing what they're letting you see, of course, but it seems like for the most part, they're hands off majority of their projects because they've put people and systems in place to do it. So I think that they're able to pursue the things that they want to pursue through other people that they've put in place. In my opinion, they're doing it right, because what's the point of doing all these things and building all these businesses if you can't enjoy life? So
Right.
I think that there's that allows them to have options. But then, like, I know you and I, like, we've been down the road of we've chose too many active income sources where every day we are so busy and we're constantly doing something, and it's like, man, what am I doing this for? You get home at the end of the day and it's 10 o'clock at night, and it's like,
Yep.
is it worth it? And I remember when I started real estate, one of the big draws for me was the freedom aspect. I was like, I was talking to my dad about it. I was like, I would rather take a price cut from whatever I was making at Planet and be able to have more freedom and be happy than go back to the work structure that I was currently in.
Yeah.
And like now, like Emily and I at home, we talk all the time about how thankful we are for the freedom that we have, and like we're able to do certain things that we never would have been able to do before because of that. But I mean, I guess back to your question, I think, yeah, but I think it's all about how you structure it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I think it's a blessing and a curse, man. I think we definitely have way too many options. But I also think that's the beauty of life, right? It's having options. Um, I think I think that was made by design to give us options. But I also think the curse part is that we fall into trying to have all the options in the world, right? And we try to capitalize on every option versus, and I think this kind of goes back to the Pastor Travis episode of purpose, right? And just like, all right, cool, like find your purpose, right? And some options will automatically just come.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing. When I say too many options, I think there's just too many things out there for us to get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And with the wrong mindset, I think if you're not in your purpose, you end up chasing some options that doesn't fit, right? And I think that's the curse and scary part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
shoot, man, like let's be totally transparent here. One of the reasons why we were so backed up for Ambitious Minds videos was because of like too busy,
yep,
like and not making the time for it because I was busy pursuing the other three different things. You know what I mean? Like
yep,
it makes it tough, man. And then to really have to sit back and be like, okay, what is it that I truly want to do, and what is it that I have to when I sit down, I'm like, oh, here we go again. And those are the things that I really need to be evaluating and be like, is that something that I really want to continue to put in my day to day? And like I told myself, I told some of close people around me, I was like, the last wedding that I shot photography is going to be the last wedding that I do. It's like I'm there, I'm not doing it anymore. It's not that I don't enjoy it, but it's just not what I want to be dedicating that amount of time and energy into, uh, because I'm so much more passionate about these other things. The photography skill I love, but it's going to be used in everything else that I'm doing too. So I don't lose that aspect. It's just I lose that active income aspect of the amount of hours that I sat at a computer and editing. So now I just do some gigs here and there, close friends and family, and that's it. That's it. But no, it does. It gets hard, and then it becomes too many. It becomes too much.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Well, let's kind of dive into. I know on the last episode we mentioned that we wanted to kind of transition from the unpacking fear to another part of that podcast I listened to with Kobe Bryant. Mentioned, he said, the more action you take, the more you think it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and man, I couldn't agree with that more, and I think it kind of aligns with us talking about options because I think there's, man, I think that's a blessing of the curse too.
Yeah.
I think the more that you do and the more action that you take, the more you think it's possible. I also think the more that the more action you try to take, right? Which could be good and bad, right?
Right.
I guess good in the sense of you're constantly moving forward and realize that in order to get things done, you should constantly moving, whether that's slow, fast, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Brings back up to Rick Ross. I don't want to move fast. I want to move correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the thing is the action piece, but also I think you can get into trouble with uh, moving too much, and I am guilty of that 100%.
Oh yeah.
Just constantly feeling like I have to be on the move because I believe so much is possible, that sometimes it can hinder other parts of your life.
Man, spot on. I've thought about that a lot actually. There's been times where like I'll be watching a movie or something that's like just relaxing, and my mind is racing so bad because I'm like, this 2 hour long movie, how much I could have gotten done if I was doing anything else, and I start to feel guilty and I like beat myself up, and I'm just like, man, like I feel like I have to be productive 24/7.
Yeah,
And it was totally like a mindset, and I still fall into that. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm out of it entirely, but for me now it's like, okay, it's Sunday. It's okay. Just like take a deep breath, just like and I try to stop myself from going back into that mindset. I'm like, you know what? I can sit here and play on my phone if I want to, dang it. You know what I
yep,
mean? Like, but I need that too, because then I also notice that when Monday rolls around, it doesn't feel like the weeks just all blend. Like it's like, okay, it's Monday. It's time to get back into, it's like it allows me to have that separation, which for me has helped a lot. Not saying that I don't do any work on Sundays, but at least being more mindful of what it is that you're doing.
yeah,
It makes a huge difference though, man. It really does. But I agree with you in the sense of the more you do, the more you believe is possible. And it kind of contradicts what we were just saying, as like, is there such thing as too much? Because
yeah,
I think, as you start to do more and you start to see how much you can do, uh, it causes you to take on more.
yeah,
um but man, like, just thinking of so many like personal examples of mine, like, in fact, let's go back to one of the stories that we've already talked about on the podcast. It's like when you were doing Product of Grace, and you start making those first sales, and then it's like your vision gets wider and wider as
yeah,
you're going deeper down this journey, and you're like, okay, there's sale number one, number two, and then you start to see like, wow, I can really see how this is going to scale, and like, imagine this, like we need to do this, like, and it just compounds. It's like that snowball effect. It's rolling down the hill and you just get more and more. um and typically, as more and more gets tacked on, it also adds more and more responsibility and more you know eh, um projects and things that you have to pursue. So at what point do you have to stop and say, you know this is too much for just me, I need help?
yeah,
And I think that should be the next question, not necessarily how much is too much, I need to stop, but don't stop. I don't think it's a cause for stop, but it's a cause for reevaluation. It's a cause for how can I continue to do this but better.
Yeah. Well, let's take this back for a second. So let's just take it from the simple viewpoint of for that person that's struggling to take action, period,
Mhm.
right? Because I think that's where a lot of that conversation I was listening to
Yeah.
came from. Is people that struggle with taking action. So let's kind of talk about that for a second. And I think, to relate back to some more reason why people have a hard time taking action is because there's some sense of fear, and they have a hard time unpacking it, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so when you have a hard time unpacking that fear, that hinders you from taking the actions. Okay.
Mhm.
And so the thing is, you got to start moving, right? I think John Maxwell talks about that a lot. Is start.
Mhm.
Start. You know what I'm saying? That's the hardest part to do. But once you start, and when you start taking more actions, it doesn't have to be big actions. And I think that's one thing that hinders us as well, is we assume that we have to take these huge actions. You're trying to start a business. Well, I have to go get an LLC. It's like, not really. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Start off with the Etsy shop. Start off with, you know what I'm saying, the Shopify account, whatever the case may be. Start off small,
Yeah.
right? And then, because the thing is a snowball effect. You talked about a snowball effect, right? The
Mhm.
snowball effect doesn't just start off as this huge snowball.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
just no. It's a small little bit, right? Um, and so, as much as it's the more action you take, the more you think it's possible. The more action you take, the more traction you get.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, and for like listeners that are struggling with that too, for me, it's always nice to hear, real people's stories and like real examples. So, like, even thinking about this podcast, Ambitious Minds. So, I mean, if we really take this back to the beginning, the snowball that started it was these late night conversations in hotel rooms when Eris and I were working with each other. We were talking about, the leadership development, side of things that we absolutely loved about the company that we were with at the time. It's like we wanted to take that and do more with it, and have some freedom with it. So as we're spitballing in this hotel room, we're like, podcast would be dope, man. Like, that'd be a perfect way, kind of, and then we start talking about Eris and his content and what that he's going to be able to produce, and like go out there and do his own thing, and just brilliant with this stuff. So that's what started it. That's a small snowball, and then it took.
Side note, do you realize today on Time Hop today is a 5-year anniversary of our first Ambitious Mind meeting.
Is it really
Yep.
5 years?
You, Tyler, and Ronnie.
No kidding. 5 years. That's nuts. That's nuts. No, man, it's crazy to think how far it's came too. And for those that don't know what he's talking about, like, we used to get together at a coffee shop. It was a couple times a month when we first started. We just discuss like whatever it was that we were pursuing at the time, leadership development, entrepreneurship. And like, I know we've mentioned something before, and you didn't want to show up the next week empty-handed. Like, you didn't want to show up the next week and not have anything to add to what you did that during that time. So like, it's came a long ways, but it took sitting down, putting together some actionable goals too, to like, okay, we really want to pursue this. We need to sit down. We need to figure out what do we want it to look like. So again, like, sticking with the real world example, like, Eris and I, we got together. We figured out what equipment do we need. We made a small investment. Like, man, let's be honest, like, I don't think we spent more than what, $200 on everything, getting everything together that we needed. Like, wasn't anything crazy. And you do it. Like, we just discussed, like, here's some topics that we can cover. We're going to do some guest speakers. Who are some people that we had. We had our notes on our iPhones that we could share with each other and add to the notes just continuously, and that way we continue to have good communication and stay on the same page. And then as you do one episode, and then you do the next one, and then you start to see, like, okay, some of these are gaining traction. We love seeing the comments that some of you guys are leaving on our videos. Like, gets us fired up. We love seeing that people are get value out of these. And now, taking it from where we are to where we want to be.
Yeah.
and that snowball continues to grow. It's like, as we're getting this traction, this momentum, we're like, we want to do some merch, we want to do some t-shirts, how we want to do our own website, or hosting website, all this type of stuff, somewhere that Ambitious Minds can live. And as continues to scale, in-person events, live seminars, things like that. Like, man, like so many different things that we want to do with this. And it all started in a late night hotel room conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we're talking about. That's the power of starting.
Yeah, man. No, most definitely. I agree with you 100%, man. I said to those listening right now, is, thing is, this is what I love about our podcast is we're still going through these journeys ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I know, you and Emily are working on some entrepreneurial things.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get to a point where I'm working for myself and getting to that point or whatever. And, I put it this way too. I think some things that stops me from taking action sometimes is being too busy.
Yeah.
Just being too busy, right? Making what I'm currently doing more important than what I in the future want to do, right?
Mhm.
Because I feel like, okay, I have to do my job, which I do. I do have to do my job, but
Mhm.
I also have to create boundaries around that I'm able to work on it. Because if not, I'll be doing the same thing. I know that's one thing that me and you talk about constantly. Like for me, like I don't want to be working the same positions that I have been for, the past, 6-7 years or whatnot. There's nothing wrong with those positions. I've learned a lot about my leadership and my growth, whatever. That's actually where the passion came from. For wanted to focus strictly on leadership.
Right.
At the same time, though, um, you know, I don't know if I necessarily want to be running stores, right,
Right.
or running gyms, right.
Yeah.
I love doing those, and there's definitely ups and downs to both of them. But man, like taking those small actions is what's gonna help me get there, right? And
Mhm.
it's really cool. Like last night, got home pretty late from work, and me and Cam were watching TV for a little while, and I went upstairs, right? And I do this a lot. I have a thought about some content or whatnot, and I'm just like, oh, that'd be really good. I'm like, okay, sleep on it or whatever, type it up in the morning. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna type this up tonight. And so like Cam came upstairs, she was like, I thought you would be sleeping. I'm like, no, like look at this. Like I just created this whole content thing, which is really cool because I'll share with you afterwards. So I think I might share this in at the November thing.
Awesome.
But yeah, man, it was just like it's the small action, man. And now it's got me where I'm just like, okay, great. I took a small action, right? Now I want to take another small action because
Right.
now I think it's possible. Even though I have to fit in a certain time frame, I do think more is possible now, and I can get more done. I just have to change my perspective of what that looks like and when it happens.
Mhm. Absolutely, man. I can't tell you the amount of times that um at a previous position, I'd be on a long car ride down to like one of our meetings or whatever. And I'm like, well, I got 2 hours on the road. I could either, listen to a leadership book, listen,
It's just
recap
easy.
my notes, or like really do something that's going to benefit this meeting I'm going to. But instead, I would just listen to my real estate stuff because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to my job that I have to do. But I'm going to utilize this time while I have it, to go ahead and pursue what it is that I want to be doing next, and it's like those small differences, those small changes, we do however many of those drives in a month, that's 8-10 hours
Yep.
of real estate videos that I got to do that I wouldn't have been able to do before. Just
Yeah.
would have been 10 hours of me singing to myself in my car, which, I mean, that still happens, but
For sure. I work
um,
all the time.
oh, for sure, man. But no, you're right. It's just those small things, and then one leads to another, and 10 hours of those videos equates to me being able to take the test earlier. I can pursue what it is that I wanted to do earlier. Um, but you're right. It's not an overnight thing. It's just, these small snowballs, man. They get going. It gets
Yeah.
bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Before we kind of switch to, once you start taking more actions and you believe more is possible and possibly getting into trouble with the more possibilities, right? Um, I think one thing that just came to mind real quick, and we can chat about this for a second, or I get a soda out there, we can move on. But I think sometimes when you have a vision and the vision is big and you see the end result, in
Mhm.
mind, right? You see the end in the beginning. Um, I think sometimes what the small actions is, you want to think of the action that will automatically get you to the end.
Mm. Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing that possibly stops people from taking the small actions because, or taking any action because, is this action going to put me in the spot where, you know, I'm going to have, you know what I'm saying, what exactly what I want. Like, and,
Right.
and I've been in that way, right? I've been in that way where I'm just like, man, I'm just waiting for one piece of my content to take off, right? Because I think that's how we view a lot of people. That's how I used to view Eric Thomas, where like, you know, if you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, right? Everybody just assumes that's like
Mm-hmm.
what got him. No, it was that he took free actions that he took in order to get him there, and maybe that happened just to be a video that blew up, but that wasn't the only one that blew up,
Right.
right? But I think our society, that's how we play a lot of things. Is man, it only takes one thing. And sometimes it does. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can do one thing and it blows up, right? But I think sometimes that's the issue is that we look for that one thing that's going to just explode
Mm-hmm.
versus keeping the vision in mind, keeping it going, right? First person I think about is Toby Inigwe, right? His thing was, get twisted Sundays, right? His thing was, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I think one of his videos, he said, I'm gonna do this for the next 10 years, and then if for some reason it doesn't work, okay, maybe I've been wanting something, but he said, I'm gonna do it for the next 10 years, right? I don't think we have too many people like, hey, I'm gonna do this for the next 10 years or to get here.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna try this for this next. If I don't see no results, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Man. No, and I think of people like shoot, Morgan Freeman. You know what I'm saying? Like he didn't actually, become a star and like gain popularity until he was what, 40 plus, or was he even
Yeah,
older than that or something? You know what I mean?
I think he
Like,
was older than that actually.
yeah. So it's like, man, and at the end of the day, I think, it boils down to the comparison problem, and we've talked about that on the podcast before of like, it's hard, man, when you get on YouTube and you see these 18, 19, 20-year-old millionaires, that are out here living this lifestyle and this dream, pursuing the things that, interest you. But comparing doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah,
It's not your journey, it's not your story. Yours looks different for a reason, and I think the universe and God willing, everything does happen for a reason in the way that's supposed um to benefit you in the long run, and it's to make you better. So, man, it's all good.
well, let's make that transition real quick because we've touched on this, quite a bit already in the beginning, but just kind of want to, I guess, sum it up some. Okay, so once you start taking actions, right, you believe more is possible, and you start doing a lot more. You start getting involved in a lot more things. But I thought you brought up a really great point that I think was golden, and you said, it's not all about you doing more things. It's possibly bringing people around you that can help you do more things.
Mhm.
So dive into that a little bit, just as in, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because I think some people get into the thing of, okay, the more is possible. That means the more I can do. That
Right.
of, I see things going smoothly and I see things working. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. I can do more. I can do more. And we get into this thing where I love using this analogy of being in a buffet line and you're trying to put all this stuff on your plate just because it's there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the thing is, half the time you're not going to eat half of it. Or the other part is, now you made everything disgusting because you're just piling everything on, and like,
Right.
now you know what I'm saying. It's
You're
a
like,
hot
oh, it's not
mess.
that good anyway.
So exactly. So
Yeah.
kind of dive into that for a second. I mean, we can kind of wrap up with that, but kind of dive into that for a second. Just that thought process and you know
Yeah.
uh, what that can look like for somebody.
Well, I'll use a personal example because this is the time that I didn't do it right. This is an example that I should have taken into who can I bring with me instead of trying to figure everything out myself. Um, when I was doing tree stand brews and I was selling coffee and whatnot, one of the biggest hurdles that I ran into was I had that sponsorship opportunity with the Wild Pursuit Channel TV show in Canada. And it was going to give millions of people exposure to the brand, and would have hopefully led to some more brand deals and things like that, and higher sales in Canada. But the current distributor that I was using, I wasn't able to ship to Canada at the price point that they were wanting to do it at. Did not make sense at all. So me being the first time in any of these positions, everything's so new to me. I don't have contacts. I don't have like the knowledge to know, oh, well, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm out here trying to figure out, solutions on my own, and which basically led to me not being able to figure it out. I had to call the producer and deny the opportunity for sponsorship, and which ultimately led to me selling the brand because I was so defeated that I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, and it was a total shift of my attitude and perspective on doing it. And I just felt like, this is too much for me. I don't have the knowledge, and I was viewing it all wrong. I think that if I would have instead, it's not like I had crazy revenue coming in. Even if I would have made a post out there like, hey, who has experience in this that would love to have an opportunity to join something at the ground up, and financial opportunities would come available in the future as the brand grew and scaled. That should have been the route, and found it, like, and just thinking about like, what if, and obviously not getting hung up on that because I'm thankful for how things ended up. But what if I would have taken, help from some other people that had been in that situation and knew what to do? Everything would have looked so much different. I could have brand deals in Canada going right now. You know what I mean? Who knows? But I was limiting myself because of myself, and I wasn't willing, and I didn't have the thought process to take arms with somebody else that knew more than me about my current situation. So similar, this is actually a great example, because as that snowballed, right, as that brand grew and got bigger and bigger, and it turned into something that had the capacity to do something internationally, it's like, shoot, man, like the vision started so small, and now here we are with this opportunity, and I don't know what to do with it. So, and it's just, it's an awesome example. And now it's like, man, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, and having a different outlook on everything. Like, I remember when I set up the first phone call with the producer for the show, and he was like, yeah, just make sure all of your decision makers are on the call. You're going to want to, make sure your team is with you and all that stuff. I didn't say anything. I was like, okay. But I'm my mind, I'm like, it's just me. And that should have been my first indicator, is the fact that he was already assuming that I had a team. He was already assuming that there was more than just me doing the stuff. Should have been my indication of, there should be more than just you doing this stuff, so man, live and learn. But I think that's really what it means for me.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. I thank you for sharing that, man. Because like I said, I think that's the hard part, and part of it, I think, is pride, right? You've been able to take these small actions and do everything, kind of build this thing on your own, right? At the same time, in order for the longevity of it to last and for it to really build out how you want it to build out, it takes other people. And I think we forget about that part in the vision piece. Because the vision, we just envision what the end result looks like. And that's cool, because it's good to see, because that's what you need to be able to cast to the people that are going to be under your leadership, or that are going to be on that journey with you. At the same time, when you have the end in mind, right, start thinking through that process. Okay, who do I need to bring on, right? Because eventually you will need to, right? And I think if you already have that mindset, you already know. Versus what we try to do is we try to balance it all, and we try to figure out, okay, I can do this. They would take away from certain parts of the businesses, and then I think Patrick Lencioni, who talks about this, is your working genius. You get out of your working genius, and if you want to put it in Pastor Travis terms, right, you got out of your gifting, right? You got so many different hats and trying to work in so many different gifts that now you're not adding the true value that you should be adding to what you're trying to actually build.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
man, it's crazy, crazy. Well, man, what would you like to wrap today off with? We leave the people with something good. Somebody's listening today, and they need to take some actions to be more responsible. What you got for them?
Man, you know what? In light of how my morning is going, just keep moving forward, man. Just keep moving forward. You know, there's always the next thing, and I think God has a funny way of replacing what you might think you've been losing with something new and even better. You know, and I've been experiencing that this morning, and it's like, you know what? I got to take it for what it is. Got to keep moving forward, and knowing life goes on, and it's not about what happens, but what do I do next? You know, so yeah, just keep it rolling, man.
Good stuff. I love it. Hey, y'all. Well, we thank y'all once again for joining us today, man. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. As always, subscribe, like, share, even if it isn't for you, but you know, this will help somebody right wherever it is. Share, man, subscribe, and you know, give us some feedback. You know, this topic could have went so many different ways. Even last week's could have went so many different ways. And so if there's, you know, maybe a different direction that maybe you think maybe we should touch on, like, please throw it out there. We would love to be able to look at that and kind of dig in from there. But if there's nothing else, hey, y'all, Ambitious Minds, till next time.
Till next time.
Peace.
Ambition is priceless. It's something that's in your veins, and I put that on my name. They gon' love me for my ambition.